If you like audiobooks or audio shows, check out a free trial of Audible. Just click the link in the description.
You are listening to Mindshock True Crime. This is the Delphi Case Series, episode 54, The Kokomo Crew. Is there a ring of criminals possibly intersecting with the Sons of Odin? Possibly not. If you haven't checked out the previous episode on the Sons of Odin criminal ring and gang and their possible association with meth running and the Delphi case, check that out. But today we are specifically going to be going over the Kokomo Crew, a varied network of criminals which may or may not have connections to the Delphi case. Everything from Kurtz to Gabe Ellis to many other names. This is quite mind-shocking. All quite mind-shocking. If there is a connection, would it behoove the investigation to focus on it in order to get true justice here? Because if Richard Allen, innocent or guilty, if he is guilty, he may not have acted alone. There might be some vast network with many tentacles, as Doug Carter has stated. And there seems to have been an overlapping FBI investigation even prior to the murders. So we obviously have to examine all this in typical Mindshock fashion with logic and reason at the forefront. You want to help support the podcast, help keep up awareness in unsolved cases, cold cases, missing persons cases, wrongful convictions, and corruption cases where true justice has not been served. You can help support the podcast. Just donate to our PayPal. Check the link in the description. You could also become a YouTube member right here on YouTube. Help support the channel that way. Make sure you're subscribed, like and share, Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Patreon. Patrons do get priority for case topic, logical analysis, co-podcaster requests. You could also be a guest in the podcast depending on your tier. Questions, comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings of any kind, leave them in the comments section. So we're going to go back a few years now. Not quite to the very beginning of the investigation, but within a few years of 2017. There are some local criminals seemingly connected to various child abductions, various murders, various meth rings and drug running, as well as drug dealing and other violent offenses and other petty crimes. Now, obviously, it's not that much of a stretch of the imagination to understand that criminals know other criminals. Not rocket science. For whatever reason, coincidence theorists have trouble with this. They always think everybody always acts alone no matter what. But yeah, there's clearly rings of criminals. Now, I am going to be name-dropping people. Obviously, this is Mindshock. Obviously, I'm not going to drop any names of anyone that has not already been convicted of a crime and is not already a matter of public record. I am only going over public record of convicted criminals. So the Kokomo Crew, of course, who belongs to it exactly and what exactly they're responsible of, for that obviously remains unknown. But apparently Kurtz definitely had some connections to the meth community. So here are a few cases and a few posts from various subreddits, including the Libyan Abbey subreddit. I've been trying to figure out what people are referring to when they say the Kokomo Crew. I never heard the connections to young people doing dope at the bridge the day Abby and Libby were murdered. That sounded like a totally unfounded rumor to me. As far as I know, the Kokomo Crew is referring to a group of meth dealers and addicts in Kokomo, which is a town near Delphi. Garrett Kurtz's accomplice, CM, named a different gang affiliation of his own. It's a rabbit hole I haven't gone down very far, but I did a short online search of Kokomo and drug busts just to see if any familiar names popped up. Nothing to connect really to the murders or anyone possibly involved in them, and nothing to know if people are still using or involved in an actual crew, even though they had all been arrested before. In 2018, Aaron Hetsko, 31, Kokomo, was arrested on charges of dealing and possession of meth dealing in possession of marijuana, maintaining a common nuisance, and reckless possession of paraphernalia. Maintaining a common nuisance. I mean, that's kind of a new one for me. I don't remember that one. The arrest led to a search warrant in the 300 block of North Indiana Street in Delphi, according to the release. Police made 4 arrests after reportedly finding drugs in and outside of a Carroll County government official's home last weekend. What? So how deep does this corruption run? This is all from the Pharos Tribune. Online property records indicate the residence in the 300 block of North Indiana Street is owned by Netta Duff, Carroll County Assessor. Carroll County Sheriff Tobe Leesenby said in an email Wednesday that William Duff is Carroll County Assessor's Netta Duff's son and that Criswell is the first deputy at the Carroll County Assessor's office. So they're trying to blame the son here? Okay, from 2014 Kokomo Tribune. Sunday, 7:55 a.m., March 12, 2018, deputies arrested Dustin Prater, 28, of Flora. Dustin Prater, 31. So he was also arrested in 2014 and 2018. Prater, 31 now, of Monticello, was also found at the Huff home and also jailed. 2 adults in a car overdosed on heroin with kids in a car. Subsequently, a home was searched. So it says here, so May 16, 2008 on in.gov, Garrett Kurtz's friend Palladino, whose dad was from Kokomo, unconfirmed, apparently. Okay, hold on a second. What is this government document here? Is this some kind of a connection between Dustin Prater and Derek German? That's strange. So, okay, that goes back to 2008. Okay, so Garrett Kurtz's friend Palladino allegedly had a dad from Kokomo, supposedly unconfirmed. When asked about his guilty plea by Judge Moulter, Kurtz informed the court that he, Ashley Garth, Chris Mathis, and Mickey Hiddle were at Kentland Trailer Park but left to go south to get more drugs. Kurtz said that is when he was told that Bowen had snitched on him and Jason Palladino for cooking meth. He testified that he, along with Garth and Palladino, decided that Bowden had to die and set it up for her to meet them at the trailer park. Little bit of overlap there. Obviously, the Kurtz and Garth theories have been circulating for quite some time as possibly the only true motive-related theories in this entire case. So people, of course, here are discussing the Gabe Ellis Tyler French theory. We actually did go over this before. I kind of want to focus more on the Kokomo crew specifically with other individuals here. So, on the Flora 4 subreddit, not that popular of a subreddit, unfortunately, but there's an interesting case files here. Just in case you haven't seen these posted, Delphi Doc Sub is an exceptional resource. The Kokomo crew possibly related to or responsible for numerous homicides, including the Flora 4. And obviously the Flora fire is not discussed anywhere near as often as it should be, either in connection with Delphi or not. Simply, justice has not been served here. So, here is Kokomo Crew Part 1 post by Chickpea Salad here on the Delphi Docs subreddit. The Kokomo Crew drug ring revenge theory started with 2 locals, Tina Rodell and Michael Phillips. Both have been advocates for missing girl Karina McClarkin. And I do not believe we went over McClarkin before, so let's do so now. Let's go to WRTV.com for this article by Nikki Dementri and Katie Cox, October 11, 2021. Kokomo, it's been 5 years since Karina McClurkin was last seen alive and her family still pushing forward, sharing her image and begging for someone to come forward with information. Karina was just 18 years old when she went missing October 11th, 2016. Police said she was last seen walking down the 1000 block of South Washington Street in Kokomo. I just want her found. Her family wants her found. It's tore this family to pieces. Everybody is almost went their own way. They hold it in. They don't let it out. Karina's grandmother, Gary McClurkin, said. I just want the community to step out for her. 5 years is too long, way too long, Gary said of the search for her granddaughter. Karina is a sister, an aunt, a daughter, and a granddaughter. Her 3-year-old niece is named after her. Jerry said the family has looked for Karina tirelessly these last 5 years, over 500 miles in and around Kokomo from Jonesboro to Burlington, Peru. We have covered every woods we've driven by. We'd stop and knock on the door to see if we can walk through their woods, Jerry said. Karina's family and friends want more done to find her. Jerry said the family wants both the police department and the community to step up. Why only remember her 2 days out of the year when everyone else is getting national coverage? Karina existed. She was not our imagination, Gary said. The Kokomo grandmother said she will never stop looking for her granddaughter, so her family will be at peace one day. Not until the day I die, Gary said. Police have executed search warrants and perused several leads in the case over the past 2 years, but have not turned up any info on where Karina could be. The McClurkin family enlisted the services of 4 PIs in 2018 to help them pursue some of the leads, including a tip from an inmate who believed she knew where Karina was buried. But that tip, like many others, didn't turn up anything new. So let's go to another article here on WRTV.com. Inmate hopes her information will help bring closure to Karina McClurkin's family by Derek Thomas, June 18, 2018. A woman serving time in jail says she has info about the disappearance of Kokomo teen missing since October 2016. Renee Murphy, 49, is serving time for dealing heroin and a home detention violation, but she says she's heard things from people behind these bars, and she hopes some of them will help bring closure to the family of Karina McClurkin. Karina went missing October 11, 2016. She was last seen walking in the 1100 block of South Washington Street. Her father, James McClurkin, told RTV6 in an early interview that his daughter had just made up her mind to go to a rehab facility in Florida to overcome her substance abuse problem. Murphy believes McClurkin's drug dealer played a role in her death. She was supposedly caught stealing from him, and he paid her another individual to give what they call a hot shot, said Murphy. A hot shot is basically bad dope or way too much of it so she wouldn't survive it. Murphy says she was told McClurkin's body was ditched near a pond in Kokomo. We are not giving out that location, but Captain Teresa Galloway says police are investigating Murphy's claims and any other tips they receive about her disappearance. Right now, we have no live leads at this point, said Galloway. We have investigated her call, every Facebook post, everything. Murphy's tip comes from McClurkin's family offering a $50,000 reward last week, but she says she's not interested in the family's money. I don't want their money, said Murphy. I just want these people to find their daughter because I can't imagine. I don't want a dime of their money. Okay, interesting. So, if she's not accepting the money, regardless of whether the tip pans out or not, it seems that she wouldn't have made it up. So, it's either inmates saying false things, or possibly it was true at one point and her body was moved or somebody was tipped off after, I don't know, thinking that somebody else might have overheard a conversation or whatnot. Who knows? So clearly not a super nice area, but very sad nonetheless, and unfortunately she's also not the only missing person from that area. But continuing on with the Kokomo crew theory here. So Tina Rodell and Michael Phillips, both advocates for missing girl Karina McClurkin. This post will cover the claims Tina has made over the years. Sources include comments and messages from Tina, information from content creator Harvey Carroll Jr., and blog posts from Robert Lindsay, who we've gone over before. So Tina alleges that on the morning of February 13th, a few men in a car showed up in her driveway to pick up her daughter, and we actually went over this account a few times. The car was described as being white, possibly in accord with temporary paper plates. The group was on the way to Monon High Bridge area. She had a bad feeling about the situation, so she took photos of the car, wrote down the license plate. She was later told that the plates were stolen. Claims made by Tina. She believed that there were drugs in the trunk of the car. She called Sheriff Leesenby to tip him off about the drugs. Tina said that the men with her daughter were Elijah Cook, Keegan Callis, Josh Weaver, Tyler Joe French, and possibly Travis Janicki. Her son, BH, was not part of the group. Tina said her daughter called from the bridge on the 13th and that when she came home on the 15th, she was not in good condition. She alleges that her daughter was raped and beaten by the men as initiation. It's rumored it was for the Sons of Odin group. She also claimed that her daughter came home with a pair of earrings in her pocket that have since been turned over to the FBI. Tina shared that the Delphi murders could have been an act of revenge against Libby's dad, Derek German. Tina believed that Derek German snitched on her sister, Christy Lynn Martin, Keegan Callis, Tyler Joe French, and Jeff Reagan. It's rumored that Eric Alter was associated with the crew along with Abby's uncle, D.E., Libby's dad, Derek German, and possibly Garrett Kurtz and Anthony Greeno. I mean, it's quite a web here. Quite a web indeed. Tina shared her story with blogger Robert Lindsay from Beyond Highbrow. And we actually went over all of that previously. Make sure you check out the previous episodes. Tina also shared her story with content creator Harvey Carroll Jr. He spoke about it on his POI Matrix video, in other videos that are currently private, and in the comments of his videos. Some of the details are different than what Tina has shared in the public groups. Information that Harvey claims Tina shared with him. Josh Hewitt may have been with the group on the 13th near the bridge. Josh Hewitt told her daughter who started the Flora fire. Tina's daughter's assault or initiation happened in a gray barn near the bridge. Libby's dad ripped off Tina's sister's meth-making supplier. Is everybody keeping track here? I mean, this is quite the web of allegations. Obviously, this is Mind Chuck. I am not claiming anything is true or untrue. The motto here, of course, is that the only thing we know for sure is that we don't know anything for sure. But these are the allegations, and these are individuals that already have convictions. So is it possible that all of this was going on and Libby and Abby either stumbled upon it and were silenced, or is it possible? Let's not fall for false dichotomy logical fallacies here. Is it possible that Keegan Kline or someone associated with him in the Anthony Shots account was attempting some kind of catfish meetup, either with or without murder in mind, maybe without, and it intersected with this Sons of Odin and possibly Kokomo crew meth ring initiation of sorts, and what would happen in such an aftermath of these individuals' paths crossing? If Keegan Kline is simply some kind of cowardly schmuck that would never actually hurt anybody, is it possible he just ran away, or waddled away, whatever, and kind of left the girls there to their own devices with these other criminals, possibly armed or not? And who knows what kind of stuff Keegan Kline and his father are involved in, and other individuals, because Kline himself has some kind of a drug dealer. So did they even know Kline? And so they just wanted him to get out of there because they knew he would never rat on them. So what? Is it possible there was some kind of a criminal overlap situation at or near the bridge that day? And people who might know about it, would they be too scared to come forward about all of this? So here are parts of Harvey's POI Matrix video discussing the Kokomo crew. Quote, then we've got Robert Teschke, Tyler Joe French, Josh Weaver, and Josh Hewitt. These guys are part of the Kokomo crew. There were rumors and discussions that they were out at the bridge camping out the night before. There were rumors that people were making meth and stuff out there too. There was also a rumor that Robert Teschke was dating Cheyenne. Supposedly this was one of the other rumors. And one of the other witnesses at the bridge. This is unconfirmed. So Tina's daughter and Keigan Callis went to the bridge that day and allegedly met with additional Kokomo crew people that I just discussed. The Kokomo crew had possible drug war motives against Libby's dad. Tina claimed that her daughter was high on drugs. She got lost from Keigan and the others that were out there that day, and if not mistaken, she called her multiple times. What's kind of all tragic in all of this, like when I read some of this, I kind of was assuming. I didn't keep in mind that these people all might have drug issues and be in a certain frame of mind, because if someone's daughter's getting assaulted, attacked, raped, whatever, sold to people across state lines or otherwise, it would. I mean, unless again the authorities are so corrupt, like what would be the mother's state of mind in all of this and bringing all of this information forward? Some people allege that, she's not in her right mind and not to take anything she says seriously. But if what she's saying is all true, or at least what she believes to be the truth, I mean, it's kind of tragic in its own way on her coming forward with this information, and what do you do with it? I mean, are law enforcement just not going to do anything about it? Someone posted actually an update on Karina's grandmother, who came forward on court TV. She claimed the police found Karina's blood on someone's vehicle. Police refused to call in the FBI. Also, they told her father the name of who they believe hurt her. Lastly, the grandmother says many of law enforcement know this individual as they grew up with him. I mean, how deep does this web of corruption go? I mean, this is just really, really sad. All right, let's go to Chickpea Salad's post, Kokomo Crew Part 2. As was stated in Part 1, a local man named Michael Phillips is the person who originally came up with the Kokomo Crew theory. His YouTube channel is Fight for Justice, is where he spoke out about the Kokomo Crew and missing girl Karina McClurkin. He has a new YouTube channel called Hunting Evil True Crime Investigates, where he builds on his Kokomo Crew theory to include people associated with Garrett Kurtz and Keegan Kline and his father, Tony Kline. Michael has met Keegan Kline and has been able to provide more information about his associates. Michael is in our group under the YouTube name Hunting Evil True Crime. Everyone, please be respectful. He's a military vet, was an FBI informant, and has info that can possibly help solve multiple cold cases in Indiana. He is putting his life in danger by speaking out. Michael says he spoke to Karina the night before she vanished. He ran into her near Washington Street on his way home. He said she seemed nervous and was looking over her shoulder. Karina may have been killed over her and her brother's drug debt. Gabe Ellis's group was allegedly trafficking her to get that drug debt paid. At the time, the Kokomo Police Department Drug Task Force was allegedly conducting surveillance on Gabe Ellis and his group. On February 14th, 2017, it was reported at the end of January a warrant had been issued for Gabe Ellis for CSAM charges. On February 16, 2017, Gabe Ellis was arrested. He was found in the back of a vehicle with his underage girlfriend, who was Karina McClurkin's cousin. The drivers were two females, Paige Turley and her now ex-wife. Gabe Ellis was arrested for the charges on the warrant, along with charges of dealing meth, possession of meth, and carrying a handgun without a license. The 16-year-old runaway was taken to Kinsey Youth Center. Michael had to get a protective order against Paige Curley. He has been threatened and physically assaulted by members of their group. Karina's underage cousin was in a relationship with Gabe Ellis. Allegedly, she was telling people that Karina was dead within 72 hours, and she refuses to speak up for Karina. Michael said that Karina's mom, sister, and brother are connected to the Kokomo Crew. Karina's remains are believed to be in Cutler, Indiana. Gabe Ellis is part of the Sons of Odin Brotherhood, along with his buddy Kyle Stacy and Abby's boyfriend's father, and many of the Kokomo Crew associates. Okay, hold on a second. I have to interject here. So, what does Ron Logan have to do all this? Are rumors of the pig roast or whatever party being disguised as a pig roast for the people who say there would never be a pig roast in February? And of course, there's a whole bunch of different people saying they do pig roast in February. But regardless of whether it was a pig roast or whether it was another event disguised or just simply incorrectly referenced to as a pig roast after the fact, is it possible they're having some kind of get-together with other criminals that's unrelated to this gang initiation with the Kokomo Crew and Rodell's daughter, which is also happening in that area in a barn? I mean, how many hundreds of yards apart would this be? Gabe Ellis and Tyler Joe French were both drug dealers that were allegedly in the same drug ring as family members of both Libby and Abby. And again, all of this is public record. There's Operation Law and Order. There was also Operation Law and Order Part 2 in 2018. We'll be going over that in a moment. But there's a whole list of individuals here publicly released for meth and various other drug offenses. So this is all public information. Michael believes that the local drug ring may be responsible for Delphi murders. The drug ring may also be involved in human trafficking. This drug human trafficking ring allegedly includes city police, Indiana State Police, judges, and business owners who help with money laundering. They may have connections to a Mexican drug cartel. One of the people mentioned was ex-judge Curtis Fouts. Michael spoke to Carroll County investigators, including Kevin Hammond and the Carroll County prosecutor, about who he believes is responsible for the Delphi murders. He says he shared intel regarding certain individuals with his FBI handlers. If they would have listened to him, he believes deaths could have been avoided, including the murders of Libby and Abby. After Delphi, a man named Jeremy Peterson was murdered. According to Michael, he had become an informant and was going to report intel about Gabe Ellis and his group. Because of this, he was stabbed to death by Alan Tinker for being a snitch. Michael said Jeremy's roommate set him up by getting him to go to the store where Alan killed him. So this stabbing death occurred in 2017. Seems like a lot of stuff is occurring here in 2017. And Alan Tinker was convicted here. And of course, on this subreddit here, there's links to news articles verifying all this information. For those who think it's just all mere rumor regarding arrests and drug rings and stuff, this is all confirmed in various newspapers, mostly Kokomo Tribune, Fox59.com, and Pharos Tribune, and also WTHR and WRTV. So all of the articles are here, or you could just search them using the names here. So continuing this post here, so Kyle Stacy is Ellis's buddy and blood brother, allegedly involved with Karina's murder. Kyle Stacy also apparently involved in an arrest where an entire meth lab was found in the trunk of a stolen car. I mean, this is what's going on in this area. Continuing the post here, the Kokomo crew may be responsible for the deaths of the following people: Karina McLurkin, Nicole Bowen, Jeremy Peterson, Dustin Buffman, Jamie Beasley, the Flora Fires, Daniel Height, along with 6 members of his family, and Javon Blackwell, along with his 2 children. So Daniel Height and his family, they were related to Abby's boyfriend's family, or her alleged boyfriend. And wow, I mean, this is getting crazy with the amount of fires here. So this is November 29th, 2018, ABC57.com. Father of 3 children killed in Logansport fire died separately on the same day. Wow, the coincidence stack here is high. The father of 3 of the children who were killed in a fire in Logansport. Why are there so many kids being killed in fires? Wednesday morning was found dead at a home 25 miles away a few hours later. Daniel Height was found dead just after 4 a.m. at a home on Lincoln Drive in Flora, Indiana. His 3 children died a few hours earlier in a fire in Logansport, along with their mother, Brandy Vale. A neighbor called 911 just after 1:45 a.m. Wednesday after discovering the fire. A total of 6 people, including Vale and her 3 children, died in the fire. The house did not have working smoke detectors. The fire is believed to have been caused by an electrical issue, but further investigation is difficult due to the destruction of the home by the fire. Daniel Height's death is a strange coincidence, according to the Indiana State Police. He is not believed to be involved in the fire in any way. His cause of death has not been released, but it is not believed to be suicide or homicide. What? Okay, I mean, there seems to be something wrong with this area and the way that police investigations are conducted in this area. Jason Blackwell Sr. and his two children, Chronicle Tribune, March 10th, 2020, man found guilty in triple homicide. Of these murders that took place December 30th, 2018, by Samantha Euler. A triple murder suspect was found guilty Tuesday on all charges related to the killing of Javon Blackwell and his two sons. The case against Lemire Joseph Jones of South Bend, Indiana, took an unusual turn, according to Grand County Superior Court Judge Jeffrey D. Todd, after Jones waived his right to a jury trial during the jury selection process on Monday, changing it to a bench trial. Because of the charge, Todd was able to rule on the case himself. Todd found Jones guilty of 3 counts of murder, armed robbery, level 3 felony, and conspiracy to commit armed robbery, a level 3 felony. During the trial, the court heard testimony from a number of law enforcement officers involved in the initial investigation, as well as friends and family of the Blackwells. The murders took place December 30th, 2018. Christmas 2018 was the last day Diana Scott kissed her babies, Jamie Lee Moore, attorney for the state of Indiana, said. According to witness testimony, Scott dropped her 2 boys, 12-year-old Javon Jr. and 11-year-old Jason, off at Javon Sr.'s home on the 2600 block of South Gallatin Street on Christmas Day. She said the 3 were supposed to check into a hotel for a few days as the bathroom in their home was under construction. Scott said she texted one of her sons early on December 30th to say that she loves him. A security camera located at the residence across the street caught footage of a white Chevy Impala pulling up to the front of the Blackwell residence at approximately 10:42 a.m. December 30th. According to state attorneys, the Impala left at approximately 10:49 a.m. Shortly after the camera recorded Jeffrey Allen Bryant arriving, Bryant testified that he was doing work on the Blackwells' bathroom. According to Bryant, he let himself into the home and began working, careful not to disturb the Blackwells, who he thought were asleep. Attorneys said Javon Blackwell Sr.'s mother, Rebecca Jones, came to the house at approximately 1:07 p.m. Rebecca Jones testified that her initial thought was that they were all asleep. It took me a few moments to realize that something wasn't right, she said. She said that she first noticed one of the boys, Jason, slumped over on the arm of a recliner with his shirt off. She said she went to tell him it was too cold and to put a shirt on, but then she noticed something on the back of his head. When she realized none of them were waking up, she called the police. Multiple officers of the Marion Police Department gave testimonies, as well as Indiana State Police Officer and the then Grand County Coroner, Chris Boucher. According to testimony, all 3 victims died of gunshot wounds specifically to the head. Thanks to camera footage, investigators were able to locate one of the suspects, Lemire Jones, based on the white Impala. Okay. Wow. Justin Buffum. So there's an obituary here, but pretty much nothing else on Justin Buffum. That's kind of weird. And then, of course, Nicole Bowen, who we went over. Jamie Beasley, also not a lot of information. She was missing since December 14th, 2017, found deceased Saturday, April 21st, 2018. Also, really not much information. There's a WTHR article here. Family seeks justice for woman found dead on the east side. Indianapolis. The family of missing woman found dead on the east side are keeping their fingers crossed for justice. Friends of Jamie Beasley started a makeshift memorial to mark the spot where her body was found over the weekend. She would not want anybody crying right now, said Susan Gill. Gill is the victim's youngest sister, and with a family friend by her side, Susan managed to somehow hold back tears with talking with Eyewitness News about her older sister. They stopped hearing from Jamie right before Christmas 2017. We were supposed to hear from her that night. When we didn't hear from her that night, Mom automatically knew something was wrong. From that day we found out, I went back to that house up until every day until Christmas, Gill said. As a neighborhood cleanup crew picked up trash near 20th and Riley Street Saturday morning, they discovered Jamie's remains. Her street side memorial includes a teddy bear left by her sister. I'm asking everybody, please say something if you know something. That's all we're asking. Give our family some closure that we need, said Casey Forey to the dozens gathered outside along East 20th Street near Emerson Tuesday night. There's really not a lot of information here. It's pretty weird. I mean, it seems like a lot of these cases, there's just almost nothing. There is a write-up here from a NamUs report This is really the most info I can find. An ex-boyfriend was the last person to see her. Jamie went to his home to retrieve personal belongings. She did not drive her boyfriend home, so there's not a vehicle involved. A witness stated she was on the phone with Jamie. There was an argument between Jamie and her boyfriend. He physically harmed Jamie in the past and was arrested. He denied law enforcement enter his home. So, who was the boyfriend? So it seems like this might not be related to the Kokomo crew unless the boyfriend is connected to the Kokomo crew. If it's the boyfriend, of course. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be, but statistically, it would be hard to write that off completely. Jeremy Peterson... Kara Kenny wrote an article here, March 12, 2019. Kokomo man was sentenced to 10 years in prison Tuesday for the 2017 stabbing death of a father of 3 children. Alan Tinker pleaded guilty to reckless homicide, a felony, as part of a plea agreement in which prosecutors dismissed an aggravated battery charge. Police arrested Tinker for stabbing Jeremy Peterson, 31, on May 11, 2017, outside the Dollar Tree on Reed Road in Kokomo. Okay, so, yeah, a lot of murders going on here. And then, of course, the Flora fire, which we went over. So there's a laundry list of people supposedly associated with the Kokomo crew, which we went over. I mean, these people were all arrested in connections with drugs or other issues connected to drugs in some way. So Libby's father apparently had so-called friends and or associates running in this Kokomo crew. So what does everybody think about that? Is that just a coincidence? So I don't know where these rumors came from, but there are 2 individuals who reportedly saw a snuff film. So apparently Sonny Justice did some kind of a video here. Where they discussed some of these individuals. People are discussing that on social media somehow Sonny actually tagged her POI prior to February 13th, 2017. So what's going on there? I don't know. So the allegations are that Chris Mathis claimed that Garrett Kurtz claimed that Ashley told him that Nick Edwards and Sheena Cox were responsible and filmed the murders. Garrett told Open Secrets that Ashley Garth had seen the video. He also mentions Nick and Sheena. He also mentions he can't say who Bridge Guy is for fear of something happening to his family. And of course, some people think he just made all that up. But the rumors about the snuff film, I mean, that's been going on for a while. If you haven't checked out the previous episodes on Mind Shock, I did a specific extended episode on satanic abuse and snuff films specifically. Because a lot of coincidence theorists think that's all fake when there's, I mean, it's like 4 hours. I think the podcast was like 4 hours long, just going over, and those are only the cases that were prosecuted with tons of evidence. Doesn't even go all the cases where there might not have been enough evidence to prosecute or it was covered up. So there are allegedly three individuals claiming to have seen some kind of a snuff film, possibly connected to Delphi. There's also another individual only identified as, I guess this is Nick, no last name. So Sheena Cottrell, a.k.a. Dylan Ford, rumored to have seen a snuff film. So these are all convicts, either saying this from jail or otherwise. Tabitha Beckley, who also participated in Nicole Bowen's murder. Tamsin Rewinkle, a.k.a. Mickles, a.k.a. Black, a.k.a. Cole, said that there was a hit on Garrett Kurtz. Interesting. Supposedly, Ashley Garth's dad was also a friend of Derek German. So, yeah, I mean, and again, here on the Delphi docs, there are the links to all of the court documents, mugshots, etc. These people are all a matter of public record. A few other revelations here on Delphi Docks. Libby's cousin's ex-boyfriend, some kind of a post. So a post on Facebook here was shared by Keegan Kline. So Keegan Kline allegedly, again, if all of these social media records are correct here, there's links here on Delphi Docs, of course. Kline is sharing Libby's cousin's ex-boyfriend's post. So did they know? So is there another connection there? Apparently, there's also an individual only identified as CD here, who's Tony Kline's friend, who was an ex-police chief. I don't know what to make of that connection. Also, Schatz is the last name of Kline's neighbor. I don't know if we went over that. Anybody find that kind of weird? Also, Kline's former neighbor, this is a different individual, in Peru, moved to Vegas in March 2017. And he was also Keegan Kline's roommate and business partner in Vegas, only identified as DH. And it's unknown whether this is the same DH who's Kline's stepbrother. Another curiosity here, a girl only identified as AC. This was a girl that Keegan Kline was staying with when he was arrested in 2020. This girl is allegedly friends with Libby's ex-boyfriend. Also stated here, an individual named KT is Keegan Kline's best friend and weed dealer. So what we went over in the interview, when he didn't want to talk about the drug dealer, was it not because he was afraid of him, but simply because it was his best friend and he didn't want to involve him? And then apparently another common friend of Keegan is convict Michael Bradley, whose mugshot shows up on indiana.arrest.org. Allegedly, this individual is friends with both Keegan Kline and Tyler French. So what's the French-Kline connection? Also, allegedly, Kline has a cousin connected to the Kokomo crew as well. So does Kline have multiple individuals connected to the Kokomo crew? And then, of course, there's Travis Traxler, who went over. This is Kline's cousin. No other further info here. I mean, that's a curious ring of individuals, is it not? Here's an interesting post by Physical Pie. This has always been an interesting and plausible angle to me, but I feel most people really sleep on it. I have previously speculated that the perceived dragging of the feet of law enforcement could be because the Abby and Libby investigation was intertwined with a very big operation, perhaps even an operation that predated the murders to take down a large network of some sort, and law enforcement just didn't want to make moves until the tower was poised to crumble completely. Just a thought in a sea of many thoughts. Yeah, I mean, we talk about that all the time. I thought I brought that up even on some of the earlier episodes. There definitely seems to be some of that going on. Chickpea also responded this: Michael has gone to Kokomo PD, his FBI handlers, Carroll County investigators, and the Carroll County prosecutor. Thankfully, he recorded his meeting with KPD so he could prove that law enforcement doesn't want to touch the Kokomo crew. He claims 2 ISP officers are involved with the Good Old Boys Club, Slocum and Riley. He showed me proof that he spoke to Carroll County investigator Kevin Hammond. Michael has shared his story for 5 years to anyone who will listen. His story never changes. Perhaps law enforcement has sorted this out, but is slowly taking down other criminals before getting to Delphi, like what they did with Keegan Kline, but I have no idea. Wait a second, there's an update on the McClurkin case? Wow, so there's an update and arrest, so let's go through this. For some reason, this did not show up on the initial searches. I had to specifically look for it. I don't know what that means. Here's a post from Mother Harmony 7 months ago. They made an arrest for the missing girl that Michael was saying was connected somehow, Karina McClurkin, and it turns out he was wrong about her murder. Although interesting, well, do we know he was wrong for sure just because of the rest? We'll get into that in a moment. Although interesting side note, this young woman, Karina, who was murdered, had a younger cousin who was involved when she was underage with that character named Gabe Ellis. Gabe Ellis and Derek German were both busted for stealing some chemical used to make meth from the same location, a farm supply business, question mark. At the same time, when Gabe Ellis was busted, he also had charges of CSAM. The underage girl he was grooming, filming, and photographing and sleeping with most certainly given meth by him. That's a way to keep someone around, get them addicted. They probably are not going anywhere. She was 15 when he started in with her. Her cousin, also a meth addict, as was the cousin's mother, allegedly, WTF Indiana, ends up missing, Karina McClurkin, and then found dead. And like I said, they arrested a man for her murder who was not any of the people that Michael said were responsible. But after all of this has been said, the day after they arrested the man for murder, the police were led to her body that had been stashed in the woods. Where was her body found? In Miami County, right around Peru, Indiana of all places, Peru. There is something very dark going on around those parts. So let's go over this. This is an article August 5th, 2022. Remains found in Miami County are those of 18-year-old Karina McClurkin, missing from Kokomo since 2016. In July, police arrested 57-year-old Flint Vincent Farmer in connection with her murder. Kokomo police confirmed remains found in Miami County in July are that of missing 18-year-old Karina McClurkin. The teenager had been missing since October 2016. Police arrested 57-year-old Flint Farmer in connection with her murder. The investigation found McClurkin, who was last seen at a residence in the 1000 block of South Washington Street in Kokomo. Her disappearance was featured in an online story by NBC's Dateline. As the case seemed to turn cold, the family voiced frustration at the lack of an arrest. Kokomo Police Department's investigation into McClurkin's disappearance began October 13, 2016, 2 days after she was first reported missing. According to court documents, McClurkin's mother reported her missing and said she may be in danger and possibly with Farmer. Wait, what? Police went to Farmer's apartment and he allowed them to come inside and look for McClurkin. According to court documents, Farmer told police he had seen McClurkin near an alley, but she never came inside the apartment. He claimed she was with another woman and asked him for money, but he turned her away. Witnesses told police McClurkin had been with Farmer on October 11, 2016. They claimed Farmer purchased food and drugs, and that was the last McClurkin was seen. Witnesses told police they heard what sounded like a fight next door, and then a person gasping or whimpering. They told police they believed McClurkin was being hurt. Jerry McClurkin, Karina's grandmother, shared details on the case to NBC's Dateline 2017. She said the two were close, holding hands whenever she dropped her off. But Karina had reportedly been seeking help for a number of substance abuse issues before she went missing, filling out paperwork to go to a rehab facility in Florida and working to improve her life. The teenager disappeared before she got a chance to do that. Jerry told Dateline she heard rumors her granddaughter had been killed and put in a tarp, buried in a wooden area, or thrown into a waterway. Over the years, she lost faith her granddaughter might still be alive. It's just a horrible mess, and the things you hear just make you sick, Jerry said. I don't want to believe she was dead. It took me a while to accept that idea. In 2018, police began reviewing phone calls made by Farmer while he was in jail between November 2016 and November 2018 as a charge of dealing a controlled substance. In one of the phone calls, a person allegedly told Farmer that the police had not found McClurkin yet, and for Farmer to, quote, keep his mouth shut and not say anything, end quote. Court documents allege in another phone call, Farmer told a woman to keep her mouth shut about what she saw, and, quote, they would not find a body, end quote. It sounds like more than one individual was involved here because a person is telling Farmer that they had not found McClurkin yet. And they told Farmer to keep his mouth shut. And then Farmer's also telling another woman to keep her mouth shut. In 2021, investigators said they received additional info about Karina McClurkin's disappearance, as well as the events that took place during the following day. An affidavit was submitted to the Howard County Prosecutor's Office as a result of investigating that info, and Farmer was arrested July 18, 2022. As the investigation continued on the evening of July 18, 2022, investigators followed evidence which led to a rural area of Miami County as a possible location of the deceased body of Karina McClurkin. Skeleton remains were found and an autopsy was scheduled for July 22nd. The specific cause and manner of death is still being examined in a report pending by the Miami County Coroner's Office and forensic scientists. DNA testing August 5th confirmed it was Karina. Okay, so this doesn't sound like this guy acted alone, so who knows whether Michael was incorrect or not about the links to the Kokomo crew. Here's some more info here from El Terzo, a verified local. Peru and Delphi people go to Kokomo to shop or work. Kokomo is the closest big city aside from Lafayette or Indianapolis. Google says it takes around 27 minutes to get to Peru from Kokomo with traffic. Peru to Delphi is an hour with traffic. When you grow up in a small town in Indiana with cornfields all around, it is literally a drop in the bucket to drive an hour each way to or from dinner, a bigger mall, etc. My mom and sisters come here to Indy almost weekly from Kokomo for short day or half day trips, nanny jobs, or doctor's appointments. Just some reference. So here's another individual we haven't discussed specifically before. One Jimmy Dale Duval. So he was charged with attempted rape of an 11-year-old girl while armed with a knife. The victim survived but had suffered cuts to her throat and other body parts. Duval was charged in '89 and released in 2005 or 2006. Yeah, I'm not sure about this timeline, but people were discussing him and his history of violence. Does he bear more of a resemblance to Bridge Guy than Richard Allen? I don't know. What does everybody think? And does anybody know about his whereabouts? So here's another article with even more killings in the area. This is an article posted October 30th, 2015. Indy Unsolved. Trio of Kokomo killings connected to the same suspect. CBS4Indy.com. By Russ McQuaid. More than a decade ago, Kokomo and Howard County experienced a spasm of violence that to this day defies investigative resolution and prosecution. Indy Unsolved is seeking answers to a trio of brutal killings that remain officially open without definitive answers. 3 people were murdered by similar means, and while detectives have some theories, no one has ever been arrested or convicted for the killings, though one man potentially was in all the right places at the wrong time. Robert Rowe was killed in Center, Indiana, and he was killed July 12, 2004, said Dale Seward, a PI, as he examined a map of Howard County with black dots showing the location of the 3 murders. And then Janet Yeary was killed in northern Kokomo, just around the corner from Teresa Cooper, and she was found in November 26, 2004. One of Cooper's sisters hired Seward to probe a case that had stymied Kokomo police. All 3 victims were brutally beaten and just stabbed and everything else, said Seward. Robert Rowe was the first. The owner of a fast oil change shop, he was known in his hometown of Center, south and east of the Kokomo city limits. He owned a business and he knew lots and lots of people, and he was very social and he was very big-hearted, said Shirley Howell, a cousin. Bob would give you the shirt off his back. Anyone who needed anything, he was the first person to step up and say, I will help you. He had gorgeous diamond rings and he liked his jewelry, said Howell. A lot of bling. That's a Rowe trait. Investigators said Rowe was not shy about the attention he lavished on women, yet they don't know why someone entered his house a week after Independence Day in 2004, leaving signs of a bloody struggle behind. They do know some of his custom-made jewelry was missing and never turned up at a pawn shop or anywhere else. He would carry large sums of money on him, which at times I think there were friends who would say, you probably need to tone that down. That makes you an easy target to somebody who comes into the shop or somebody who knows you, said Captain Greg Hargrove of the Howard County Sheriff's Department. Rowe was beaten so severely that his was a closed casket funeral. We found a lot of the cases that we have, unless there's a personal connection, somebody who's just trying to escape a crime scene, rarely are they going to just go in and stay there and carry out the kind of brutal beating that Bob took, said Hargrove. Usually it's just to get away. They want to get out of the scenario. This is obviously a different case. If it was a random act, this individual obviously had a lot of rage. No one has ever been arrested or charged with Rowe's murder. Kokomo police think that it was on Thanksgiving of 2004 when Janet Yeary followed a stranger into her house on North Apperson Way. Wait a second, so this is some kind of holiday killer? July 4th, Thanksgiving. I talked to her the evening before, let's see, that would have been November 24th, the evening before Thanksgiving, said Carly Martin, who lived across the street from her mother. She was cooking like she always did. We were going to come here and just have Thanksgiving. I worked evenings, so we were going to come in early and just have a nice meal. Martin said her mother always laid out a feast for holiday. It was a huge production, even though there was only a couple of us. There was always a big turkey, every casserole you can think of, salads, desserts. There was never anything unaccounted for. The only thing left unaccounted for on Thanksgiving morning 2004 was Janet herself. Carly let the day pass without word from her mother before she went across the street to look for herself. I don't hear from her. I'm calling. She's not answering. She's not showing that she's been online, said Martin. So I get up, I look, the garage is still open, and this is where I find her and come to realize that she's been here since sometime the day before. I later find out that the food prep had started, the turkey was in the oven, it was running. I don't know what happened. Detectives theorize a man from Peru Indiana, Danny Case was dropped off in Urie's neighborhood the night before Thanksgiving with no way to get home, and he was going door to door in an attempt to call for a ride or commit a killing. That's very specific. So he either needs to use the phone and get a ride, or he's going to kill somebody. Those are the only two options. Case was also wanted in Miami County on a charge of attempted murder, and 2 months later, on January 25, 2005, he was arrested at Indianapolis International Airport on an outstanding warrant. Before detectives could place him in handcuffs, Case committed suicide in an airport holding cell. Though he was never charged, Kokomo investigators thought Case was their man. There are many consistencies in the Urie homicide that point to Danny Case, a strong person of interest, KPD Major Brian Selden said. Carly Martin isn't short. I don't feel like I'm any further than I was all those many years ago, Martin said outside of the house where his mother died. I don't know if I'll ever know. It's always been a question for me. Trina Lane also has unanswered questions about the murder of her sister, Teresa Cooper, on February 8th, 2005, less than a year after Robert Rowe died, and 3 months after Janet Urie's killing. Cooper had a history of drug abuse and addiction and lived with her husband and his son in a 2-story house on Kokomo's west side that winter where she collected disability payments. Lane spoke with Cooper on the phone in the week before her death, and the doomed woman said she had something important to talk about but couldn't quite say what it was. A few days later, Lane received a phone call. Oh my God, Trina, Lane recalls her sister saying, it's on the Fox 59 News, Teresa was murdered. Cooper was found beaten to death and sexually assaulted in the upstairs bedroom of the house, which was later boarded shut due to methamphetamine contamination. They were either after money or medicine, said Lane, referring to Cooper's immediate family members. They were always stealing from her. No one has ever been arrested for the murder of Teresa Cooper, but there was a man who claimed to be a witness. His name is Nathan Dodson. On the streets of Kokomo and inside the Howard County Jail, he was known as Nat Dog. You have Nathan Dodson living close to all three, said Seward, the private eye, 0.6 of a mile from Robert Rowe, 1.7 miles from Janet Urie, and approximately from corner to corner of the property, 265 feet from Teresa Cooper. And Dodson told police he saw something suspicious in the alley linking his house with Cooper's on the morning of the killing. Dodson basically inserted himself into the investigation on the Cooper murder by claiming to see a witness in a story that doesn't really add up to too much, said Seward. Dodson claimed while eating a bowl of cereal looking out the kitchen window that opened onto the alley, he spotted a man in a hoodie who made eye contact, put his forefinger to his lips as if to indicate silence, and walked away. Well, that's an interesting story. All this in the pre-dawn winter darkness without the benefit of a streetlight from 100 feet away. And Dodson was friends with Cooper's son and grew up not far away from Rowe, and went to prison for more than 50 years 2 years later for the rape and beating of a woman at a Southside public housing apartment complex on West Center Road. He just lived right next door to her, said Seward. The female victim led law enforcement to him, and they actually knocked on his door during the investigation the same morning. Dodson's washing machine was running, his clothes drenched in bleach. He later pled guilty and went away to prison for decades, and that's when Kokomo's unsolved fatal beatings stopped. These three are the only ones that stand out in a small time frame, said Seward. They all stopped happening after the conviction for the one on West Center Road. What's interesting is Dodson lived within pretty close proximity to all three victims when they were murdered. Seward, a former small-town police officer, said that he noticed a pattern, interviewed dozens of witnesses, compiled a thick file, and raised questions he'd like to see local investigators ponder about Nathan Dodson, about his propensity for violence, his proximity to the victims, his personal acquaintance with the neighbor who survived his attack, and Teresa Cooper, whose killer is still at large. The investigators for hire also doubt Dodson's claim to have actually spotted a suspicious man in a darkened alley and seeing into his eyes a third of a football field away while being urged to keep his own mouth shut. We've looked at him and we're continuing to see if there's any correlation between this or if he's a viable suspect, said Captain Hargrove, who does not list Dodson in his top 10 list of suspects or persons of interest in the Rowe case. There are persons of interest in the Cooper homicide investigation, including Nathan Dodson, wrote Major Selden of Kokomo's PD Open 2005 homicide. Again, we're not ruling out these persons of interest, including Nathan Dodson. Absent any momentum of any of their cases, the grieving families can't help but wonder if the murders of their loved ones are connected to a man whose departure for the Department of Correction coincided with an end to the type of fatal beatings each victim suffered. I think the same person was involved in each one because they are all similar, and this person lived within the radius of where those people lived, said Teresa Cooper's sister, Trina Lane. Everything just stopped, said Janet Urie's daughter, Carly Martin. Was it because there was someone else and they're in prison, or was it because it was him and he's gone? Is it because these people are gone and they've taken off? How will we ever know? I think it was odd that they were all killed in the same manner, and then he left this lady for dead, said Robert Rowe's cousin, Shirley Howell, recalling the attack Dodson carried out on his neighbor. I honestly believe that there may be a tie there from everything that I was told. I honestly believe that there may be a connection. I mean, it just makes sense. 82,000 people live in Howard County, and while they certainly don't all know each other, the bad guys often do because of mutual crime interests, from drug dealers to burglaries to meeting inside the county jail. In a bizarre twist of fate, Howell herself formerly worked with Dodson's mother, while her in-laws once owned the home where Yuri died. Attests to how simple it is for paths to cross in the community of the side of Howard. What, this is kind of weird. 82,000 is not that little of people. So they all, wow, that's kind of weird. Maybe it's all just a set of coincidences, or maybe trouble seemed omnipresent wherever a violent man prowled the streets of Kokomo and its outlying areas a decade ago, and his type of attack, the same kind that took 3 lives in less than a year, stopped when he went away. Okay, so that is kind of bizarre. Is there any connections to a Kokomo crew? I don't know. So let's go over one more article here. Leaders of Kokomo-based drug ring face charges for planned killing. Failed murder for hire at the center of third superseding indictment. September 22nd, 2018 by George Myers, Kokomo Tribune. The leaders of a drug ring that brought illicit substances from Georgia to Kokomo and planned unsuccessfully to kill a person at the hands of 2 hitmen are facing additional severe charges in federal court. So what do we have here? I don't want to call it a precedent because this is after 2017, obviously. But this is actually doesn't state exactly when they're executing this plot. But within a year or so, there's hitmen being used by drug rings in the area. What does that tell everybody about what kind of area this is? 6 defendants in a third superseding indictment were hit Tuesday with charges that range from conspiracy to use interstate commerce in the commission of a murder for hire to money laundering. Another man, Thomas Jones, was added to the list, bringing the most prominent case of the local Operation Law and Order to a collection of 14 defendants. Jones faces 1 conspiracy charge and 1 distribution charge, both with 10 years to life, for allegedly dealing at least 50 grams of meth as part of the drug ring. In conjunction, the leaders of that outfit saw the likelihood of receiving their own life sentences increase significantly, specifically Pierre Riley, Reggie Ballantyne, and Michael O'Bannon, all facing, among others, new charges related to the hiring of 2 hitmen earlier this year. Riley, a former Kokomo resident who sent drugs through couriers to Kokomo, is now also facing a money laundering charge in addition to the scheduled killing. The new counts were added to an existing charge of conspiracy to possess with intent to distribute and to distribute controlled substances. His son, Michael O'Bannon, who worked closely with the hitmen, is facing 4 new charges, 1 related to the planned murder for hire, another for possession with intent to distribute controlled substances, and 2 focused on illegal firearm possession. Ballantyne, nicknamed Pudge, the head of Kokomo's end of the drug dealing operation, was smacked with 2 new charges. They include the same planned murder for hire charge as Riley and O'Bannon and possession with intent to distribute. Also at the forefront of the third superseding indictment is Kristen Kinney, aka Cupcake, facing new possession, money laundering charges, Michael Jones, who's gone from 1 to 5 drug and firearm related charges, and Perry Jones, staring down 1 new drug charge and 2 gun counts. It was a mix of local officials and federal law enforcement who first announced the arrest, the first phase of Operation Law and Order, at a press conference May 2nd, Kokomo City Hall. Before that, a citizen tip set into motion a drug investigation that culminated in around 130 local and fed law enforcement officers conducting multiple raids in the early morning hours of May 1st, dismantling an alleged drug and firearms ring with ties to criminal activity in Georgia. Starting at 6:05 a.m. May 1st, federal agents from multiple agencies alongside local law enforcement executed warrants at 13 locations across Kokomo and Macon, Georgia. It all followed a multi-agency 4-month-long investigation involving phone wiretaps and remote cameras. Okay, I'm not going to go through the rest of this, but I mean, it's just so extensive with the involvement of so many individuals, and it took them 4 months to put this together. So was there some kind of an investigation in play, possibly months and months long investigation, right before the murders of Libby and Abby? And that delayed proper investigation, or maybe they did have a lot of people in their sights, and they simply didn't want to pull the trigger, so to speak. What does everybody make of that? I mean, the corruption clearly runs deep. Corruption and or incompetence, combination thereof. That causes many cases to not be solved. Obviously, we're going to continue to examine all this in typical mind shock fashion with logic and reason at the forefront, objectively, logically, and neutrally without falling for any logical fallacy. Hope everybody found another edition of Mind Shock True Crime interesting and informative. If you want to help support the podcast, you can donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. You can also become a YouTube member right here on YouTube. Help support the channel that way. Make sure you subscribe, like, and share Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Patreon. Questions, comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings of any kind, leave them in the comments section. This is Bruce McGuire signing off. Catch you guys next time.